Hi, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I am Jill Troderman, the host of Feeding Your Family. And today we are going to dive into how to feed the soil so you can feed your family. We've got in the studio a really fabulous guest. His name is Paul Gaylon. We're going to talk about ecological farming and gardening in the 21st century. So, where does true health begin? Does it begin in the person, in our foods, or in the seed, or does true health begin in the soil?
The soil, yes, the soil and the seed, because the interaction of the seed and the soil has come through as the plant grows through the roots, and that moves through into the soil, which is called the rhizosphere. And in the rhizosphere, all that magic happens. The tree, the plant swells with nutrients going into the soil, such as carbons and sugars and all those elements that go in. And as that goes into the soil, it starts to solubilize the soil. And what it does is it breaks apart the nutrient bonds. They're called catons, the caton exchange capacity. And it breaks those apart so that those nutrients are freed up, in which case it can send it back to the roots through capillary action. And as that expands and grows, the tree gains girth and goes outward, and then it goes down. So the footprint is like magnified, in which case with a high silica, it comes up, and the plant is stabilized to have a wider footprint to grow very well at that point. In which case we get those benefit of all that nutrients into our food and our soil and through our health that we transmit to our families and our children and so it's all interrelated.
That is so great, because I was almost asking it as a hypothetical, because when you ask people on the street, like, what is more important, this, the food, the seed, I really wonder how many people would answer the question so eloquently as you, as it is the soil. So today, Paul, I want to share with our listeners a little bit about more about your work and your history. So let me read your bio. So Paul likes to be on the cutting edge, as you just heard. As founder and president of Herbal Products and Development and also Pacific Plant Nutrients, he has studied and researched herbs and plants and has formulated innovative herbal products and whole food concentrates for over 30 years. Paul is an avid reader and researcher with a strong interest in new developments on the herbal and health frontiers. He is dedicated to implementing new concepts in health, nutrition, and herbology. His involvement in new product development in the United States has led him to visit many countries around the world to study and photograph plants and herbs. Paul has become quite knowledgeable about native and foreign flora. His herbal products and development has implemented his vision for bringing nourishing and effective original formulations and other products to the market. And so recently you've started Pacific Plant Nutrients, and these solutions have a high mineral, high potency, and an economical nutrient biostimulant, which is a plant fertilizer, and we will get into that. So when Paul is not busy creating formulas, he spends his time in the community, and he enjoys going to music events and cultural events, and he volunteers his services with first aid. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you
here,
Paul.
So good to be here. This is a wonderful, long time coming.
Indeed it is.
Yes.
I'm excited for our conversation today, because it really is something I don't think a lot of people think about, is the soil and the quality of the earth that we're standing on. And that is something that really got your attention, not just how important food is or supplementation, but really that all stems from the quality of our soil. So let's talk more about what makes soil healthy.
So a good healthy soil is a combination or a confluence of many factors. One is that you obviously want to make the best kind of compost you can of what you're. If you can do it, chickens are wonderful because they create a lot of aeration in the soil, and they allow the nutrients and the rain to get through. You want to have the holding capacity of things like the fulvic, and we'll get into that more, and the humates, which were that goes back to the Carboniferous era of what we call the dinosaurs. But the nutrients have decomposed slowly. Those were the old bogs and the leonardite and the coal beds. All those compressed nutrients that have been formed over eons and eons. That's the whole thing. All this geology is at play as well, and we'll explore that too. But the soil, beyond that, is the compost links into the subsoil a little bit, beyond the leaf mulch and going down into the rhizosphere through decomposition of a lot of the rocks and the wood, and you could do wood chips. I've been shredding cardboard, clean cardboard, and it's a nice kind of mulch. Mulch is good. The straw, all kinds of different sorts of mulch to hold the nutrients into the soil. Which case the more it stays in that capacity, the stronger it is because it's not being disturbed. And the soil biology has a chance to work in the soil with the earthworms, the cilia, all the creatures there, the decomposition, the bacterias that are in there, and the fungal, which are the mycelia that break through the whole layer of the soil to bring back nutrients to the plant. So there's an integral relationship of it all, but the soil that we walk on, the ground beneath our feet, is that example of the potential that we have to really have healthy food on this planet for people and animals and all of us.
Wow, so it seems like it's both really simple and also really complex at the same time, because the simple thing is that we've been on this planet, or the planet's existed for millions and millions and millions of years, and the soil's been building up over that time.
Right.
And now here comes modern humanity, and I'm sure in a swift amount of time, we've depleted a lot of our soils, because you're saying they're so rich with organic matter, from our leaf cuttings to the bark to rocks to the microbes and the insects, and there's so much going on. I don't even pay attention to any of that, really, but it's happening magically beneath our feet. But I do know when there's erosion. I'm aware of that, when there's that hard pan, and when you water and the water runs off. So we want our soil to be able to hold the water.
The humus in the soil is the holding capacity. If you have too much clay, you have a sheeting effect where the water runs off. That's the point of adding too much to the soil without it going through the soil to where the soil will uptake it and hold on to it. We get the runoff effect. And what we're trying to do with, what I'm doing and working on is creating something that acts like a sponge and acts like a means of slowing the water so that it's percolating gradually through the soil. The earthworms and all the cilias and all the critters live in that, use it as a habitat. They create the excrement to nourish that. All of that activity brings a lot more nutrients into the soil. So all this process is something we're not consciously aware of, but it's literally going on whether we recognize it or not. It's still happening.
It is, and the main reason for people who aren't gardeners like ourselves and who are city dwellers, or maybe they just have a house plant, the importance of the things that you're so knowledgeable about is because we need healthy soil so the plants and our trees and our fruit trees and the agriculture system can absorb the nutrients. And then the plants, a highly nutritive plant that's healthy and thriving, will then translate that to us. And maybe not just plants that we're eating, but let's say grasses and grains that our animals are eating. So either way, whether it's coming into us directly or via our animals that we're eating, we still need healthy soil for healthy plants.
Exactly.
So that's kind of like the nutshell, right? We want healthy food, straight up.
Yeah.
And so the way to get healthy food into our systems is through healthy soil.
Yeah, and they're breaking it down, and the soil's chelating it for animal use. Their manure is also fertilizing the soil, and all of these factors are constantly, whether we realize it or not, are doing subtle changes into the very soil that we think of as a a bit more in a stagnant fashion. We think of it as just soil, and yet all of these little biochemical changes that are occurring, what we add into the soil when we put compost or people bury fish or whatever they're doing, those are affecting all the kinds of minerals that are in the soil and how they bind. That's the cation, the binding of those into the mineral colloids, which are more of the clay. So you're wanting to get clay. Clay is good in a way, but you want to break that in with more loamy soil, topsoil, and so that you have a texture. If you have too much like sand, everything runs through it. So you have to try to balance whatever soil you have, and there's ways of mitigating that too. So you have to see what you have, and just work with that if you're working in the soil as well.
Right.
And
so for home gardeners, they could see if they have sandy soil, they need to add more loamy stuff. If it's loamy, you're perfect. If you can wet your soil and hold it and clump it and then kind of push it off in your hand. I learned that in horticulture.
That's
Is
it.
that right? And then if it's too hard, then you really need to work on breaking that up.
Breaking it up, and then you'd add more manure, and you'd add more things that'll break down fast, more like even sawdust and certain nutrients and
cardboard.
I've been shredding cardboard because clean cardboard. I just felt intuitively that it was a good idea to do that, and it's nice. It seems like everything's doing pretty well. I just kind of mulch a little. I mean, if you're shredding, a good shredder, you just you can just tear it all up and push it through. And
the glue that holds the pieces together is not a
those
big deal?
are more that I tear off all of
biodegrades?
that and tear off the kind of tape and all that stuff.
Sure.
But I look for the clean cardboard and,
Nice.
Get that. And I mean, it's probably not 100%, but it's pretty close. And
I like that. Why do you care so much? Like, can you just share a few minutes about what
it's sort of
makes
like
you
all
so
these
passionate?
aspects are sort of important, and it's like recycling. I mean, I collect bottles and all that for, we've been using some for nutrients that I have, and I've been recycling the 1 gallons. I recycle the kombucha bottles for sample bottles. I use it for orange oil. I just, those are recycling methods, but these are all time constraints that one puts into their day. There's a certain amount of time that it takes up, but it sort of feels good at the end of the day that that these things are happening. But
no, but why you got into caring about soil?
Soil.
What was your what you get so excited? I mean, I could sit for hours and you could just go on like. It's not a topic a lot of people geek out on.
How did I get to the soil? Well, I had an associate who was working with the blue-green algae up in Klamath Lake, and then I was working with that and seeing how it was doing with the plants, and that was one of the first things. I began making more of a formulation from that, and that was the early stages of that. But I found that blue-green algae was interesting for both purposes, was human nutrition and in agriculture. And I started, different fields can leak into the other because they're so interrelated. And the soil, I always said that, agriculture precedes our eating our food because we have to grow it, we have to cultivate it, or we collect it. I've also collected a lot of wild foods all over everywhere. It's like hunter gathering, or you prepare foods, but it all has to come from the earth and the soil. So you're collecting what you can find, and that's it brought me back into a basic stage of really restarting, and also it was a good way to challenge myself because I'd been doing nutrition and herbalism and for so many years that it just was exciting to break into a whole new field and really pioneer certain concepts in that. But I had great models like Elaine Ingram and all the people like Advancing Eco-Agriculture, and a lot of people who have great information. I ended up putting that on another, my website for the purpose of education. And I've always felt it was important to have education too, and not charge for it, not have sign-in, not have any of that nonsense. Just basically allow people free access to information, and then also the physical side of directly working in the soil. So that way you balance your two hemispheres, your physical and your mental.
Right. So, yeah, because you were a formulator of really cool high-level supplements.
Yeah, still am.
And you still are. And so we know that those really work for people. And one of the ingredients that we'll get to in a minute, but Paul's a formulator of these really cool nutritives for the soil. And one of the ingredients is blue-green algae. Mm-hmm. So we know how brilliant that is for human health. That it's really easy to digest, high in amino acids.
Yes.
Alkalizer.
Yeah.
Right? Has lots of minerals and nutrients.
Everything.
It's so rich.
We have a full thing on the website about a full analysis. It's 5 pages of all the components of it.
Okay.
So that's a really interesting document to look through to see what it all entails. But, the working in the soil, is certainly different than working on human nutrition. There were different constraints, mm-hmm. but although many principles were very similar.
Right. Now, should the common person be concerned about soil, or should we leave it up to the big farms and
No, I think it's everybody has your own space to do that. And I mean, if you even build a raised bed or things like that. Oh, I got more volume, I see. You're getting a lot more ability to grow your own food. There's something exciting about having your own food. And
right?
I mean, I celebrate when the nettles come out. I happen to like nettles, and when I'm cooking a dish, I'll put them in at the end and cook them right in, and they're delicious. They're not sharp or anything at that point. And the miner's lettuce, when it comes out, I love that in my salad. It's just sort of, you can cultivate a garden, and that's great. And also, don't neglect the nutrients that you get that grow wild around you, or
right.
that you can harvest, and those are also very rich in all kinds of vitamins and minerals and amino acids and all kinds of aspects to it too.
Right. So eating off the wild land might have more nutrients than, let's say, our mainstream ag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
Could you share a little bit about the difference between the fertilizers like NPK, like the
right.
nitrogen, phosphorus?
Well, there's
potassium.
there's different aspects of how you look at nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium.
Can you share, like, the big ag uses heavy
right.
synthetic chemicals?
Right.
I just want you to paint a picture
right.
of why
okay,
we want this organic stuff.
Yeah.
Instead of the big ag quote unquote.
So when you're putting those on and they're not in accord with the biology of the soil, which, can be a factor. And again, the Biostimulant Act that's been approved in both houses of Congress and, both parties and all that everybody is.
Can you say that again? It's called the
Biostimulant Act.
Okay.
It's been the last 23 and 25. These were acts that were enacted to improve soil health, improve drought conditions in the soil. Mm-hmm. They call it abiotic. Improve nutrient uptake. All of these aspects are being written into this document as an aspiration of all organizations, the USDA.
That's shocking
U.S.
to me.
Department of Agriculture is very aboard for this because we have all been painted into a corner because without the relief of having nutritive materials in the environment, we're poisoning ourselves in some way.
Wow.
And it's important that we switch over to methods that are healthy for the soil. Now, that being said, you can pick up high nitrogen through fish emulsion and other things like that. But the direction we're going is with biology. And soil biology illustrates that when you're feeding the plant, the watering that you're giving it, whether you're adding nutrients or not, whatever you're intaking into the soil comes from the plant roots. And it comes back because as those materials are going down, the carbons and sugars, they're bringing it back into the plant. And there's a solubilization occurring. That's what that's all about. And we're working with the principle of getting soluble phosphorus out of the soil. And with that Katon exchange capacity, the hydrogen in the soil, from things like humic and fulvic hydrogen, it has like 5%. There's some nitrogen in that. There's all of those elements are in that and in the soil and in the conditions of geology that have affected the soil. So there's much in the soil that hasn't been utilized. What we're trying to do is utilize more effectively the soil itself to strengthen the plant. And that can include nitrogen, which is ammonia, 4-part hydrogen attached to a nitrogen, which is the final form to be solubilized into a form that we can, it can be taken from into the plant. So all of these materials are in the soil. It's just that they have to be chelated or brought up and back for the plant's use. And sometimes when you're putting on things that go over the plant that doesn't have that soil biology, it's not really understood what to do with. It's like if we're trying to eat something like a plastic or something, our human physiology doesn't know. How would you even think of digesting that? So that will cause sheeting and runoff, which goes into the rivers, and we know those kinds of things. But these are things that are transitioning and changing at this time. And the exciting thing about that is that there's more and more and more companies aboard with this idea of using materials like fulvic, like humic, and those kind of things too.
Okay, now you've mentioned these very fancy words a few times.
Okay.
And then I'm impressed. No, I know it. I do know a little bit about these because we take them in human nutrition,
right,
as a detoxifier.
Right.
So, but in the plants and in the soil, can you share with everybody who's listening, what is humic and fulvic? Is that
So the humic is more
and why is it important?
like a more of a lower pH, and the fulvic is a little higher pH. Together, they're called humates.
And this is like leaf matter, or
these
rocks?
actually were materials that have decomposed and have been compressed. Some of them are called leonardite. Others are compressed. They could be manures, they can be the peat bogs, they can be all of these kinds of things where nutrients, whether they've been in a liquid medium or a solid medium, were compressed for using in the future or later. The thing about them is that we're seeing that the release of the nutrients from that is phenomenal. The what's in that and how much biology, and I'm using the term biology to express the potential of the soil and of the plant to uptake what they need, and because there's the working relationship of it. That's how it basically works.
Right. So some soils have this naturally occurring, or is it mined and extracted to be used in certain applications, like from bogs? Are they digging down like under forest floor to get this really great
both
stuff?
It's probably a little of both. There's certain areas that are more fulvic rich.
Okay.
Some are more humic. They're both. Certain areas have that. There were mineral pitches found in the Himalayan mountains as well.
Right.
There was some are for human use, some are plant use, some are there's all things, but there are very high minerals as well. And so what each of these ingredients that I'm talking about, or each of these materials, have a very high period of time in the geology sense. Ranging from blue-green being 2.1 to 2.4 billion years ago. Everything else is in the millions. Kelp is 23 million. Anyway, these kinds of materials were formed in a period of time, maybe well over 100 million years ago, even before there was any kind of people. Coconut, which we use the carbon from, has a history of 100,000 years in human use.
Wow.
Maybe 4,000 actively in the last 4,000, a lot more. But the carbon in that, the coconut shell, we use that, and it's rendered into a fine powder, and that all of those act together as a home for the soil. And whether they're in a bigger form like the coconut shell would be like a biochar, where where it's been all the oxygen taken out and they were broken down, but they slowly dissolve, but they're providing all that home environment. We're using it in a powdered form to then solubilize it into a liquid, but it still holds the water and the in the soil, so that it's slowly dispersed, and it works in the sense of a tremendous amount of nutrients are going into that soil from the humates, which are both of those are called humates.
All right, and we're going to take a quick commercial break, but before we do, I just wanted to throw out some of these really cool ingredients that are found in your product.
Okay.
And I hope I can say them all correctly. So we know we've got some blue-green algae.
Mm-hmm.
And don't use this as a cocktail mix.
No,
people.
This is not. This is for
your plants, okay? Because it's going to sound really delicious. So we've got some blue-green algae. We've got some kelp extract. We've got some volcanic ash, plus the humic acids, the carbon derived from the coconut shell.
Right. And the azomite.
And I'm not familiar with the azomite. That's volcanic ash.
The azomite's an interesting story for a second. It's just basically the the volcano in Utah had occurred, and it was quenched by an inland sea. So that all participated in the breccia of the azomite. It's a kind of we get the finest grade we can, but it's still a volcanic material.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I hope people are paying attention and taking notes, because we've got some chemistry going on.
And we have a good website.
But even if you don't understand what we're talking about, it's all really important for your upcoming salad.
Right.
I'm kidding, but I'm not. I love what Paul's talking about. All right. So, folks, hold on tight. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Hey, folks. We are back live.
Right. Yes.
And we're speaking today with a very knowledgeable scientist and my friend, Paul Gaylon. And Paul is the owner, CEO of Pacific Plant Nutrients. He's a master formulator also of high-quality nutritional supplements. And we're talking to Paul about soil. It's a concept I don't think a lot of people pay attention to. We might take our soil for granted, that it just magically grows our plants, grows our trees. But there's so much more going on below our feet than we can even comprehend. But Paul does, and he's breaking it down for us, literally, molecule by molecule. So we've been talking about the importance of his formula that he's created that contains things like blue-green algae, volcanic ash, humic and fulvic. And these are really important components of soil quality. So, Paul, let's dive in. These ingredients that I've just rambled off, they're not just random ingredients. They're something that you have named called intrinsic factor.
Right, intrinsic factors. And the intrinsic factors are coming in, especially the kelp, which we take the finest foliar grade, so it absorbs right away into solution, because we shear everything in a homogenizer for several hours under 120 degrees when we're done with it. So we're taking liquids and powders to work with. But intrinsic factors, returning to that, are the fulcrum or the confluence of both blue-green and the kelp, because they both have tremendous amount of amino acids in them. So, of course, that's translated into the nitrogen. They have that affinity toward the nitrogens to uptake them. They also have the gibberellins and the cytokines and the auxins and all of those growth hormones. So they have those are intrinsic. It's not like we're adding any of that into it. They are part of of that complex. All of the minerals of those materials, and the humic, fulvic, the azomite, and the carbon from the coconut shell, the husk. These are all high mineral aspects. So those are all in it, and there's so many kinds and so many types that there's probably we tested for many of them, and we even tested for heavy metals, and we did very well. There was hardly any of that, which is amazing. We also did microbiological testing. But the minerals, I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 minerals or so.
Wow.
Because you're getting so many kinds of minerals that are there.
And micro.
And when you think about that going back in the soil when you're watering and then coming back, there's this movement back and forth is giving you a lot of nutrient baths. It's kind of working its way around back to itself. So those other the azomite, the coconut, and the humates, or fulvic and humic, those are more related to they're the holding capacity. They're also adding and helping the microbial activator. All of that is occurring to help the mycelium to collect nutrients. It's not a matter of just adding microbial inoculants, which you can do, and that's fine. This is another way around that, of using these materials in multiple roles, of where they are acting as a microbial too, because the mycelia is searching out through the soil to take in what it needs to bring it back up through the plant. So the biology is such that the bacterial earlier stages, smaller plants, as you get higher and higher and bigger into trees, it's more microbial. It's more about the mycelium and bringing that upward. And they all have their role in that. And the interesting thing in the soil is when you have trees and plants and all kinds of other kinds of growth, they're actually sharing their nutrients through this web. And that's the fascinating thing, is they regulate themselves, maybe even better than people do, in terms of knowing what they need and just getting enough and not taking too much. And there's an innate wisdom that the soil has. And as sometimes it even works that the plant roots that are swelling with those exuded compounds going into the soil, they're actually indicating into the soil, as it's solubilizing, what it actually needs to come back up to it for what it needs for its physiological growth of the plant, for its optimal health. And that's a stage of consciousness that we as human-centric people, we don't want to even think that that's possible. But I feel that with the geology of all of these ingredients going back to that amount of time, they have evolved in sense of they've worked together, and they have evolved on rivers' edges and in the ocean and even on land and bogs and whatever they've been in. But I believe these have interacted, and they have some kind of innate wisdom of how they've worked together. So I think geology enters into it, and also is related, like the physiology. I just wrote a piece on the that we entered up today on the website, but on the forces of all of these together, and kind of a nutshell of these ingredients and what all those are, the nourishment and the nutrition and the geology and those aspects.
Yeah, it's so mind-blowing what you're sharing when you talked about more of the cosmic stuff that the plants share with each other, what they need, and they're not overtaking what they don't need.
Right.
And that's something as humans we do. We don't know what our limit is. Right. We overeat, we overdrink, we stay too long in the sun.
Yep.
And we're not tuned in to that connection to, oh, that's homeostasis, I'm good. I don't need any more. So we've almost lost that connection, but we can learn from the plant world.
Right.
That the plants don't get fat.
Right.
Like you don't see a broccoli plant that's just like, whoa, you've had too much calcium for you, buddy.
Yeah, right. They've regulated their usage.
They've regulated their usage, and these supplements that you're giving them to the soil helps with that. That helps with that regulation.
Yeah, it's solubilizing more of the nutrients so that they're able to uptake them. That's the key point of it. Is that these are working right in its own sphere, as opposed to more throughput of other things that aren't in accord with soil as much. And so I feel that if you're really mining something like the soil and really utilizing it effectively, right in the same area where the plants are that you're watering and providing nutrients, you can get the same efficiency as huge broadcasting of a lot of area where a lot of this certain kinds of materials could be extraneous.
Right.
It's almost like you can get more than you need.
Sure.
And certain families of plants need a lot less than others. Grasses, for example.
Right.
Hemp, corn, lawns, all those kind of things. They like to get nutrients, and then they dry out a little, and then they, it's not like they're sitting in it like willows, like more water. They're feed in water. Plants are all different, but that can be affected by how much nutrients they need. Certain things don't need as much. Fruit trees, we've been finding that one or two or a couple applications, almost a year is enough.
Wow.
I used to think it was way more before. And in my experience, no, I'm seeing even less.
That's crazy.
But you see, that's tied into how you integrate, as you were saying earlier, the compost and the soil, and how you're aerating it, and how you're providing the nutrients around it to hold that soil, the mulches, the with a straw or the wood chips, all of those kinds of things, because there's still slow release of those nutrients.
Sure. And that's so important for people to put things down on their garden beds. Like, you don't want to just have blank, bare, naked soil exposed to the elements. You got to put a little layer of
a
little blanket of something good.
Right, exactly.
And then you feed them all these nutrients. And so for all of us, do you think that, so it sounds like with what you're doing with getting back to the soil, like, it seems like, I don't know if I'm going to put words in your mouth, but maybe you're seeing, I see some sort of an existential crisis on our planet right now with this lack of health, and people are looking for health. So for you, with your experience with supplements, did you feel like, I really just want to get like almost to a more foundational level, like people will become healthier if we feed the plants better?
You can actually look at trees and look at some of the trees, and you can see right there
bigger fruit, more
nutrients. How they're doing. I mean,
right.
I saw certain trees that may have used a little of this and didn't, and there was a difference of the leaf structure, maybe on figs, where there was a lot less of them, and the leaves were curling up. They were curling, and there was a little touch of yellow as opposed to that beautiful green. And so I saw a place that had that where it had one watering with the certain nutrients like this. Again, you're using only 1.5 ounces of this per gallon. So we're talking about really small amounts. Small amounts. It's not like you need a lot. It's not. And that would get into something like wine.
Oh yeah. So let's
wine
talk about
growers,
it.
Because small amounts. You feed that soil a couple of times, those grapes utilize it. They don't need such an incredible, complicated watering schedule with the fertigation, the fertilizing and the irrigation. So they can use some. You can put it in there, but it might even be almost too much.
Right.
And again, that's the word tiers in the language, in the parlance of the wine industry, tiers. And this is exactly what we're talking about of tiers. The soil, the earth, all of that is the tiers. This is a custom-made material for wine and growing grapes.
Right. So this is good for the homeowner, but also bigger scale, because most people don't have like big wine growing applications.
It would even do crops. I mean, you can do crops with it too, but
what about the big farms? What, like, it grows on? You can use this for lettuce and any kind of.
It's you get into so many other issues and third-party testing, and yes, that's all important, but in a way. It's much more enjoyable working with farms that are from 5 to 40 or 20 acres or whatever, fruit orchards, small nurseries,
Mm-hmm.
uh, small growers, kinds go to the farmers market and do their selling there,
Mm-hmm.
because it's human scalable,
Okay.
and I'm finding that I'm really enjoying that. I mean, yes, there's a commercial aspect, or you're making a product to sell and all those kinds of things, but I think at the end of the day, it's much more enjoyable to be able to walk around a 20-acre parcel or whatever it is, and really look at things and assess what you could do in a very simple way, not only with watering and nutrients, but of the soil, and improving that too, to create a good foundation for your plants and your health.
That's so good. So what do you want the people to know? Like, what would a take-home message be from you to people who are listening, who are like, wow, I never had a clue about how important soil is? What can people
Well,
do today? I know you want people to go to your website.
yeah, that would
Here,
be.
let's throw out your website. But if they can't, let's say they're not going to buy your product, but we want you to.
It doesn't matter. They can learn. And
Right.
the thing is this is a highly educational website.
You want to tell people what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Pacific, PACIFIC, plant, PLANT, nutrients, NUTRIENTS.com. So pacificplantnutrients.com. The product we're making is called Mineral Max AG, as in egg. So Mineral Max it's because everything is so rich in minerals. So it's the maximum of minerals, and it's an agriculture product. So if you go to the website, what you'll find, it's so easy to navigate. It's not weird in that the buttons are all findable. There's certain ones, there's a frequently asked questions and answers. Obviously, there's an ordering page that has charts for mixing, calculation, sizing, pricing, all that. There's testimonials broken into categories, and there's 50 of those. There's 150 links, and there's about 20 articles that I've written or so. There's lots of documents. We have an organic certification, testing, and you're using about 1.5 ounces per gallon of this stuff. So it's organic, certified by the Oregon Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, that is great.
So
I mean, you could almost eat this, but don't. But
No,
it's got
don't.
so much good stuff in it.
But that's how it translates from the soil to our health,
Right.
And that's the biological, biochemical breakdown through the soil. It's preparing it for us through its synthesis.
It's so good. You're such a good complex thinker, because you're taking these really complex ideas and simplifying them with these amazing nutrients. Everybody can use them, but it really is cutting edge, even though it's natural ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
But you're encouraging the soil to really utilize all these things.
Yeah.
So, folks, I do encourage you to go to Paul Gaylon's website. And he is a master, really, of all these things. So you could just
There's another
learn
way
so
to
much
get
on his
to.
website.
There's another way to get to everything,
Haha.
and it's called PAULS, Paul's Community
Okay,
.us,
for sure.
and that brings you to all of my sites. There's 4 of them actually.
Okay. Well,
And-
you've been doing this for a few years, so I
Yeah.
know you've got a lot to share.
Yeah.
And this has just been so much fun.
This is great.
I'm really excited for this product. I actually have some at my house. I'll have to try it on my fruit trees.
Yeah, that's the other thing. More than the talking and more than the website and more than anything is actually using it
Right.
to see what happens. And that's the,
That's
that's
the
where
key.
we get the data, and that's where we get the feedback, and that's
Right.
where people tell us. And, that there's a real important element of that to really know how things are working and dosages.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing starts, you do less.
Right.
If you're doing flowering and fruiting and budding, you're doing a little more.
For sure,
But
sure.
you just basically use it about 1.5 or so ounces per gallon.
Perfect. And this year-round applications, and maybe less in the winter, so it doesn't run off. But
Yeah, you don't need it. And then it's in the soil. It's not going anywhere.
Sure.
And if it's held there like a sponge where it's holding, you're getting it's not moving.
it's not going.
Not going.
Well, I like this concept because I like to. One of my taglines is "Create the world you want to live in." And I want to live on a happy planet. I'm idealistic. What can I say? But that's why I like having innovators like you on the show, so we can together, all of us, create the world we want to live in. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for being here, Paul
Thank
Gaylon.
you. I really enjoyed this. This is wonderful.
You're the
And
best.
I enjoyed it. You are, and
Thank
I
you.
love this. Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure. So, folks, we have one more minute. I just wanted to share with you all. I do have a couple courses coming up. One is called Unpackage Your Kids. We're going to be exploring the food tree. It's a 6-week. It's a 6-week class, and we're going to be diving into the 5 food groups. We're going to be talking about the connection to eating junk food and mental health, your children's wellness. And I'm going to support you so we can get our kids off of all of these terrible junk foods that are causing tremendous health implications like obesity, ADHD, and even worse, things like cancer down the line, God forbid. So we want to get our kids off of all of these junk foods. So please sign up. It's going to be on Zoom. So it's so easy for parents. And there's 2 different sessions. The first one starts August 5th. And the second one starts September 23rd. So it's going for 6 weeks each, and they're different times. So please check them out, folks. So thanks again. This is Jill Troderman. You're with Feeding the Family, broadcasting from Santa Cruz Voice, Santa Cruz, California. Peace out. Lots of love.